And so you see that, and again, I think it's all come wrapped round again by today. You see everyone now understands what brands are. Like some brands just take the heat. So whenever there's demonstrations, a Starbucks or a McDonald's will get trashed because that represents whatever in people's minds. But what's interesting is in the olden times, we would say that a brand should always try to change as little as possible because people need to have the message repeated continually. These days, you see brands can't really rely on that. You see how brands on voice devices, they have to change because of minimal spaces on watch devices. So it's not just a logo that sits everywhere. It has to evolve. And so you see, say, like the evolution of Apple's logo. It used to be this multicolor thing, but now it's just like an apple that's silhouetted. So you see, like, evolution of marks will keep on changing. They're not static anymore. So that's what I find quite interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
But yes, I mean, and then in the article I just talk about a cartoonist, H.M. Bateman, who once described in 1919, he had this hatred for like the modernism or postmodernism, Picasso and all that. So I'm not an admirer of people who draw like Picasso. I feel his influence has been a bad one, demoralizing and reducing the world to a farmyard. So again, it's like if you take any of these kind of style and trends, basically he's criticizing that people are not finding their own voice. But we're seeing our brands becoming a bit too over the top. I talk about, you go to an app store and you open that, and you see how brands are really evolving there. But it's interesting space, I think the brands have transcended what a logo that most people want to identify. But yeah, what do you think? That's a huge monologue. So sorry if I've made you tired, listeners.
No, I think it's awesome. So the one thing that I realize is that, like, when you think branding, you think of like a lot of people also think of like their personal brand, right? Which isn't like, everyone's. Hold on, sorry, I'm getting some background noise.
That's right.
Sorry, I was getting a little bit of background noise there. No, I was just saying, so like we think about personal branding and branding in general, but it's also kind of interesting to hear like the dark history of branding as well, where it didn't necessarily come from like, the most honest path. So, after hearing the history, I kind of understand where we're at now. What do you think is the role of branding today, and where do you see branding going?
I mean, I see branding as like a tool. Like, it's a tool that you're trying to, that does a thing. And it's like a knife, you can use a knife to cut bread, or you can use it to cut people. Sorry to sound really bleak. So I see branding as that tool. And with any tool there, it has its ability to do things. It's kind of what is in the hands of the user, right? Or in the hands of each company. So we know how to sell things. We know that you're repeating a simple message, being recognizable because people's short-term memory. So those are kind of the rules. But now the surfaces that we're seeing, so see what happens in augmented reality. Like, you imagine if you have like glasses as being an interface, every time you put on a glasses, it brands the entire world in the style. So imagine like if a sweet company, you put it on, it's like Willy Wonka, like everything becomes multicolored. So imagine that, a brand basically imposing itself on everything that you see. That could be an interesting space. Pretty dystopian and scary. Like an episode of Black Mirror, I'm sure. But that's a possibility. I mean, we kind of have that virtual reality in a way. Gaming has been really strong in that space. But yeah, I mean, the most successful brands are the ones which are simple, easy to remember. If you could give someone a pencil, they can draw it. I actually, just to finish off, I was in the supermarket a couple of days ago, as that's the only place I go now, and there was a board game called Logo, where the idea is you show logos. I think it's in Costco, actually.
And you have to list, and you have to name the logo?
Yeah, basically it's a board game for family fun, and you show a logo. So what logo is it? That's crazy that's where we've actually ended up. So maybe I should take a picture of that and say, this is where all brands end up. In the branding. So the goal of every brand is to reach the zeitgeist so that they become a part of society. So Xerox becomes a synonym for photocopying, or in the UK, Hoover becomes a synonym for vacuum cleaner, or Coke becomes a synonym for pop. that's the goal of any brand once you enter the lexicon of a society. And so we'll see what happens next. You know, how we can evolve and change. But yeah,